Dear students, my name is Cliff, and I'm a senior lecturer at the University of Exeter Business School in entrepreneurship. I'm also the Director of Education for the department called Innovation, Technology and Entrepreneurship. Today, it's our great pleasure to have here with us Ben Stickland,
Hello.
also known as the personal branding guy that you might have heard of on social media. First of all, Ben, a very warm welcome. Thank you very much for being here. And
Pleasure.
first of all, could you please tell us a bit more about yourself and where does your passion for personal branding stem from?
Hi, Cliff. Thank you for having me. I'm not sure I'm quite famous yet. I don't know if many people will have heard of me.
What you will be.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, very true. Very true indeed. I do believe in that strongly. So my name's Ben, and I'm a personal branding expert for entrepreneurs and founders. I work with people across the UK, the US, Spain, and even Serbia. And I position them as the go-to experts within their industry through personal branding. My passion for personal branding, and it is a passion. I chose to do this business. It wasn't like I fell into it.
Yeah.
I chose to start this business out of thought and time.
Mm-hmm.
It all stems from when I started my first business, which was a health insurance franchise.
Right.
And that was about 6 years ago now. That was pre-COVID. And it has a little bit of relevance to this because I started it a year before COVID and it was a health insurance franchise. So it wasn't the most sexy product in the world. It's an insurance product. It's a grudge purchase. It's not something that people particularly are interested in unless they have a particular pain point or have suffered medical delays,
Right.
sadly, because of the NHS.
So would you say it's like kind of niche market?
It's a niche market. I mean, to give you an idea, 10% of the UK has it.
Mm-hmm.
10 or 12% of the UK has it.
Still quite a decent size.
Yeah. I suppose, yeah, you're right to a degree. That's 6 million people in the UK that have it. And there are big guys in the market. There's Vitality, there's Bupa, who everyone have heard of.
Yeah.
And I bought a franchise for a little old company named WPA, a fantastic company. And even though there's a longer story to why I lost the business, I still believe in them as a company.
Sure.
I still have a policy with them, in fact. Not a full cover. Anyway. But there are big guys in the industry. And I was little old Ben faced with these big guys in the industry having to go up against them. And so everyone had heard of them. And I came along and I bought the franchise of Southampton. And Southampton was a location, a city that I'd never been to before. I'd never even visited it. I chose to buy the franchise, the geographical area of Southampton, because it's well populated. It's got a good centre of business. And it turned out to be a pretty good decision.
Right.
In the end, I'll tell you in a minute, but my personal brand and that business brought me a lot of money. For the first 12 months, that 12 months before COVID, I'm just giving you some timeframes here. It's not relevant at the moment, but I really struggled. It was a franchise, so I didn't get any guaranteed income. There was no, here you go, Ben, here's £1,000 a month at least. I didn't get anything. So I was self-employed. I was a limited company.
Right.
I really struggled. I didn't know how to communicate my unique value. I didn't know how to communicate my product's unique value. I didn't know how to tell people how bloody great health insurance was or how great I thought it was.
Right.
It got to the point after about 12 months where I thought, I need to put food on the table now and I need to pay the rent. And like I said, I think I earned about £8,000 net in one whole year of starting that business.
Wow.
So it was really tough. But as with any entrepreneurs, success sort of came out of partially desperation. And I thought, how do I communicate my product's unique value and my unique value? How do I show my personality? So I went online. And the first year it was a lot of face-to-face.
Right.
I did a lot of networking. I built up my network face-to-face. I woke up early mornings, 5 a.m., twice a week, breakfast, talking, business, business networking.
Yeah.
BNI.
Yeah.
So I did tons of that and I built up my face-to-face reputation. And then I shifted to online and I built this kind of online presence just before COVID hit. And then COVID hit and it sort of accelerated the whole thing. It just put a turbo up it. And what I did is I created looking back now, I post some of the videos, but they are stupid, silly, me prattling around. But if you take a deep dive into it, you see that I was entertaining people, like the kids on TikTok were during COVID.
Right.
I was jumping around on camera, pointing at things. I wasn't even talking when I look back at the videos. And then as a secondary effect of these videos, what I was doing, and I didn't realize this, but I was educating my audience. I was saying, this is the benefit of health insurance. This is what you think about health insurance. That's incorrect. this is what actually health insurance is.
Yeah.
Because I was faced with so many misconceptions about my product. Because with British people, you know, we've grown up with the NHS, we hear about health insurance and they're like, oh, no, it's stupid, it's expensive, it's like the American system. Don't get me wrong, I wouldn't wish the American system on my worst enemy. Yeah, so what I did is I jumped online, started making videos, started busting myths around the common misconceptions of health insurance. And guess what? My business just took off. People started to reach out to me. I started attracting people. I started attracting big corporate organizations.
Wow.
I landed some of my biggest clients through this unintentional personal brand that I built up online.
Without even realizing it.
Without even realizing it.
Wow.
That was the biggest thing for me. And I realized only about a couple of years in what I had created after people started to recognize me as if I were famous and I didn't know who they were. So I used to be part of this fantastic co-working space in Southampton. Anyone who's in Southampton who has a business should be there. It's a very high-end, very high-quality co-working space. It's not your typical like WeWork.
No.
It costs a lot of money. It was like, I won't say how much it is on here, but it was an exclusive space that you were chosen to join it. Anyway, I went there and someone said, "You're Ben, aren't you? The private healthcare guy." And I was like, yeah, who are you? And that was the point at which I realized I'd built a personal brand because people were recognizing me. So in a way, it brings this sort of fame. As you mentioned, you introduced me, you might have heard of me for personal branding. I don't think anyone listening to this would have heard of me for personal branding.
Well, now they have.
Now they have. There was a few key indicators for me that realized I built a personal brand. And yeah, so that's where my passion for personal branding came from. I suppose when I started this business, I took a look back and I reflected and I went, what did I do well with the last business? I was one of, I don't mean to sound like completely up my own arse here, but at the time of leaving the franchisor, there was 90 franchisees and I was number 3.
Oh, wow.
Out of getting new business and making loads of money.
Yeah.
So, you know, one of the tertiary effects of building a personal brand was making money. But that should not be your primary objective of building a personal brand because people are going to see right through it. Anyway, I'll come on to that in a minute.
First question for you. How has personal branding benefited you?
It outweighs anything that I've ever done in life because it has helped me land jobs. It's helped me get bigger salaries when I have been employed. It's helped me attract, most importantly, clients that I like working with. And this is what I coach my clients. And it's helped me attract opportunities. I'm sat here right now doing a podcast with the University of University of Exeter Business School. Sorry.
Yeah.
I live here. I live in Exeter, for goodness sake. I've been around this university all my life. So yeah, I mean, it's brought me high-end clients that I enjoy working with.
Yeah.
It's brought me jobs. It's brought me high-paying salaries, and it's brought me opportunities like speaking gigs and being on this fantastic podcast today with the University of Exeter Business School. So for me, here's a good example. When I lost my first business, I'm not going to go into the details now. I did lose it. I went from riches to rags overnight. Oh, poor Ben. You know, like I still had a roof over my head, for goodness sake. But when I lost the business, I was doing really well, and it was a massive kick in the teeth. You know, probably the last time I cried. It was like losing a family member, and they just took it away from me overnight. I lost the whole value of the business. It was worth. It was well into 6 figures, and it just disappeared overnight. But you know, looking back, I don't really care. They couldn't take away my network of people. They couldn't take away my personal brand, which I didn't realize. Again, I didn't realize at the time served me so bloody well. So what happened is I wanted to maintain this lifestyle that I had. I was a bit of a wanker, right? I was driving around in pretty nice cars. I had a couple of Rolexes. I had a really nice flat on the beach. Anyone who knows me knows that I used to live it up. But when I lost the business, I kind of wanted to maintain the lifestyle to an extent. I got rid of the car, sold the Rolexes. Oh, what a dick. Not for selling it, for having them in the first place. But I wanted to maintain the lifestyle. So what I did is I reached out to my network and I leveraged my personal brand, and I looked at different industries, and I ended up falling into recruitment. And I've got this fantastic job with a brilliant company, a small I'd say a boutique company in Southampton. They are brilliant people, and I am thankful to those guys to this day, even though I only lasted 7 months before I handed in my notice. I was there for a year in total.
Right.
They taught me so much. But here's the lesson. My personal brand, when I leveraged my personal brand, I got that job without them even seeing my CV. And I managed to demand a salary way above anything anyone could expect for having zero experience in recruitment.
Wow.
Because I had a personal brand that was built around my unique value as a person who'd built a successful business, and people had seen that, and I was showing up online. I was able to create content, and recruitment's quite similar in that way. When I jumped into it, I was like, oh, well, actually, it's very similar in the sense that you have to build a network of clients, candidates.
Yeah.
And I took to it, again, I'm going to sound like a bit of a knob, but I took to it pretty well. And I'd like to think I made them quite a bit of money, and that's why I don't feel guilty about leaving. They probably disagree. But I don't feel particularly guilty about leaving. And the boss wasn't particularly happy, but I am very grateful to them. So there's the first example of how I leverage my personal brand. It got me more money. That should not be your goal, to make more money with a personal brand. But that's one of the other things. And then I lasted a year, and then I went into super yachts, right? I had a bit of a quarter life crisis. I'm only in my late 20s. I had a bit of a quarter life crisis, and I went, right, I want to travel the world, man. I haven't got kids. I haven't got a mortgage. Don't have a partner. Fantastic. Let's go and make the most out of my 20s. And I decided to go and work on super yachts, a bit like Below Deck. I knew it wasn't going to be easy, but I didn't have any experience, like any practical experience. And to work on super yachts, it's not just looking pretty and stuff. Anyone that has worked in super yachts knows it is an incredibly tough job, physically and mentally. And in the end, it nearly killed me. I mean, it was brutal. But again, it taught me a hell of a lot, and it taught me a lot of practical skills. How did I get into the industry? I leveraged my personal brand. I reached out to people that I knew through my network. Your network and your personal brand are like intertwined. Yeah. Right? So I reached out to because you build your network based on your reputation, and your personal brand is your reputation. Yeah. That's how you're known. We'll come on to my definition of a personal brand in a minute. So I reached out to numerous people that I knew within my network, because in Southampton, oddly enough, there's loads of yacht recruitment companies. So I just reached out to them through LinkedIn because I had a big LinkedIn following. Right. I was starting from scratch, right? So I didn't even have like a company to back me up or any logos or any. So I just had like a professional headshot for my last company, and I reached out to a couple of recruiters, and I said, "Hi, I'm Ben. I run a successful business. I know it's got no relevance to yachting, but could you help me get a job? I'm a decent, and people vouched for me because they knew I was a decent bloke. They knew I'd ran a, not that that's relevant to going into super yachting, but, getting any job in the world, if you have no experience, the first thing you should have is just being a decent person. Are you going to turn up? Are you going to be reliable? The fact that I'd run a business demonstrated that I was able to be on time, I was reliable, etc. And then finally, the way that it's benefited me, and there are numerous ways, I could go on all day, but another clear indicator is, ironically enough, starting this business this time last year roughly, was some of my first clients came from my reputation, my personal brand. They came to work with me because they knew that I'd demonstrated that I was able to deliver in the past. Yeah. So I built up this reputation of reliability, authenticity. I was willing to go. I always go above and beyond for my clients. I still only charge for, and this is silly, but I still only charge for like the one-to-one, face-to-face stuff. Everything I do outside of hours, I don't yet charge. And I've said this to my clients. I'm like, I'm not charging for this right now because I'm accruing goodwill, as James Smith says, and that's from James Smith, but I think it's bloody brilliant. I'm accruing goodwill at the moment. I'm in the stage of starting a business where I'm, trying to, build credibility essentially. So some of my first clients have come from me. So it's served me in so many ways, and it will continue to serve me into the future. And it's just ironic how it's a personal brand business and how my personal brand is serving the personal brand business.
Oh yeah.
You know?
Yeah, exactly. But it's a great point that you just mentioned how your personal brand is also bringing you different opportunities. And that kind of reminded me just now how at the University of Exeter we are developing this skills framework, and a part of that skills framework is not just about your knowledge and your skills, but about your professional behavior.
Yeah.
And that's part of your personal brand.
Yes.
Very obviously, when you said something about authenticity, reliability,
Yeah.
those are the key elements of professional behavior.
Yeah.
And that's going to contribute positively to a personal brand, which
Yeah.
will bring you
Yeah.
many benefits.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So on that note, my second question is, how has a personal brand benefit your client?
Okay, so similar to the ways in it's benefited me, it's benefited my clients. It's brought them clients because it's built up credibility, it's built up trust. It's built that like trust for me and for them.
Right.
But one of the different things that I found working with people across different industries is, for example, I worked with the founder of a procurement tech company. So they create tech for procurement.
Mm-hmm.
And she has found that recruitment's become a lot easier because a personal brand attracts, the law of attraction.
Yeah.
I'll probably come back to this actually because I'm a big believer in the law of attraction.
Nice.
And how it intertwines with personal branding. And you'll hear this with all the other founders as well, the guys that are all doing these podcasts, the Hormozis, the Chris Donnell, I think, the Stephen Bartletts. If they need to hire some high caliber people, they don't even need to use recruitment companies. They literally put out a post or something and they'll get like 10,000 applications because they've built up this reputation, such a strong reputation, and they've shared their values and they've shared their beliefs and they've shared their story. And the people that they're attracting most of the time are people that naturally align with the business anyway. Yeah. Because that person has given out to the world, this is what my belief is, and this is what my value is in running my business. And so therefore the people that are engaging with that and seeing that content, well, not just seeing it, but engaging with that content and aligning with it are going, I want to work with that guy.
Yeah.
Because he's been raw and authentic and he's shared his beliefs. And I'll say this again, but a personal brand also deflects people that don't align with you. So because you've shared your beliefs and values, it will push away gently the people that don't align with how you like to work, your non-negotiables, again, your values and your beliefs. So yeah, I'd say that's one of the ways it's benefited my clients, and also investment as well. So again, I was approached by a founder of an AI legal tech company. They'd created like a chat GPT for legal documents or something like that. Yeah, okay. It was quite fascinating.
Yeah.
And this guy was a bloody genius. And they'd already got VC investment later last year, I believe. And I spoke to his PA and they were like, yeah, we're looking for some more investment later on. And that personal brand is going to leverage that investment because you've built up a reputation, you've built up credibility, the investors know who you are, you've got a presence, you've built up trust. So it works in so many ways that will benefit you beyond beyond your imagination, right? So yeah, that's what I'd say for that.
Great. I like the trust point. That's very nice.
Big thing. Big personal branding is all about trust. And it's funny how you can, it takes you years and years to build up trust, and yet it can be squashed overnight. And I did a post yesterday saying, it took me 2 years at least to build some sort of memorable personal brand where people recognize me.
Right.
But it can disappear overnight if you get arrested for GBH and end up in prison and, it's on the news, right? Your personal brand. But, me being devil's advocate here, you could argue that your personal brand hasn't disappeared because now you're known for being arrested. I know I'm just going down a rabbit hole here, but a personal brand, for good or bad, exists with anyone.
Exactly.
Business or not.
It's also how you want to be known for.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, put out good into the world, give value, build trust, and people will give value, and people will instinctively trust you.
Yeah. So I think so far we've established why a personal branding, a good one, is important and is beneficial for everybody. Now, before we go into sort of any more details on that, we've all heard about marketing, branding for businesses, but how would you best explain a personal brand?
But let's compare it to a conventional, traditional corporate company
Yeah.
like Coca-Cola, for example, or Nike. Nike tells you to just do it. A personal brand tells you why you do it, how you do it, and who you do it for. It gives you a lot more information in terms of your values,
Yeah.
your beliefs, what you're good at, who you love helping.
Yep.
Yeah. So, I mean, for me, my personal brand is for anyone, your personal brand is what your reputation is to the outside world, how people remember you. And I've got a good exercise for this, actually.
Oh, cool.
So to demonstrate that everyone has a personal brand, and I do this exercise with my clients, give me, let's start with 5 things that your friends would associate you with. They could be words, phrases, sports, drinks, anything. If I went to one of your friends now, it could anyone, but your partner, could be anyone. What would they say about you in a number of words? Okay, I've known you to a degree, right?
Okay.
I would associate you with David Lloyd, for example, right?
Well, yes, I do like exercise.
Right. So that's one of your things. That's
fitness.
what I know you for. That's part of your personal brand.
Yeah. Yeah, passion for fitness, definitely. Yeah.
What else?
Food.
Food?
Yeah,
right. Great. What type of
foodie.
food?
Oh, all types of food, as long as they're delicious. Well, now probably a bit more, as long as they are delicious and healthy.
Yeah. Coffee?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Love
Sports?
Coffee. Yeah. Sports. Well, that question has reminded me that my friend often jokes about this. Every time I visit them, they'll be like, "Oh, let's do a clean of the flat," because I love a clean living environment.
Yeah.
I keep my living space
OCD.
very clean.
Yeah.
OCD. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, very clean and organized.
Yeah.
And that actually reflects in my work as well. I'm known as an organized person at work.
Yeah. I noticed when we came in here, but this is probably driving you crazy with the the mess.
No, it's fine.
So I mean, even we go down to the nitty gritty. I know it sounds tedious and silly, but the kind of things that you hate as well in a room 101 kind of way.
Yeah.
Right. So not in a I hate this not political, for example, but silly things. So for example, I hate people that wear straw trilbies abroad. Do you know those hats? This is silly, right? But it's those things that really get on your nerves, and it's not going to necessarily act as a filter. It's not going to deflect people that wear trilbies, these stupid straw trilbies, when they're on holiday in Spain. But it's going to create conversation, and what you want to be doing with your personal brand is creating genuine, authentic conversations with people, and having a little fun and a little dig at people that wear straw trilbies is quite funny. And people, and I'm not going to push away a client just because he wears a straw trilby with his family on holiday. No. It's just a funny bit of conversation. I had a client the other day who hates Crocs with socks. And I was like, God damn, yeah, I agree. I wear Birkenstocks with socks, right? But these kind of things are silly, but they are part of your personal brand. They are what you stand for. They are how people remember, Ben's the guy that hates people with straw trilbies, right? It's silly. It's
very interesting point. That's when the branding becomes personal, right? That's the personal element of
personality. Show personality
and your preference, your personal preference. That kind of brings people together.
Yeah.
Or drives people apart.
Like I said, I don't think it necessarily pushes people away from you. Maybe if so. Okay, but look at it this way: if it does push someone away from you because they're really sensitive, guess what? You don't want to work with them anyway. It was just a joke. If you are attracting people that are that sensitive and they can't take a joke, that's who I am. I like having a joke about certain things to a degree. But if I have a person in my audience that went, that's really offensive, you don't like people with straw trilbies, what? I'm having a joke. That's my personality, that's my personal brand. If you don't like that, Unfollow me.
Well, everybody has their own personal brand anyway, right?
Exactly. And that's what it's all about, attraction. So it's filtering. So, I mean, look, put it this way. Your personal brand is how people talk about you when you're not in the room. It's how people remember you. Oh, Ben's the guy.
Yeah.
That's why with my last business, I called myself the private healthcare guy. So people remembered me as the guy that did private healthcare even when I wasn't in the room. Nice, short, concise, memorable.
Yeah.
And that's the point at where my business, there was another pivot point where my business skyrocketed, when people knew exactly what I did. And niching is something that I talk about with my clients as well, which I'll probably come on to.
Cool.
But that's how I'd explain a personal brand, how you're remembered when you're not in the room.
Well, considering our audience,
Yeah.
students who are studying entrepreneurship, who are interested in entrepreneurship, or who would like to become an entrepreneur in the future, why is building a personal brand no longer optional for entrepreneurs?
As I said, everyone has a personal brand to a degree, but having a personal brand that stands out online, for example, and offline, is going to be the biggest differentiator going forward.
Yeah.
And that's because the internet and social media has democratized people's attention. Everyone is now able to access attention, views, impressions for free. So whereas before, traditionally, like even going back to the noughties, 2000s, just before social media, big companies would have to pay big money. Companies, regardless of size, would have to pay big bucks to get any sort of attention on a billboard, on TV. Whereas now, what entrepreneurs can do is post some value on their LinkedIn page or create a video showing their face, and build a personal brand. I wasn't going to talk about this actually, but I've just thought about the Instagram CEO.
Okay.
I'm going to pronounce his name wrong. Mosseri. Someone's going to kill me for that. He's an American dude, Californian guy. Very. I see him. I've just recently followed him. He is constantly in front of the camera,
right,
talking about Instagram, what they've got going on. He is the epitome of a CEO that has a personal brand. He's casual. He's authentic. He answers questions that he gets that you didn't think he would answer.
Oh,
right. Not rude ones, but things that people go, and I hate this about Instagram. Why have you done this? And he'll answer it. Right. And you're thinking, bloody hell, this guy's really got something going on. So, yeah, I think for entrepreneurs, the reason it's not optional anymore is because people, the biggest lesson I learned in my last business, right, is that people buy from people. They no longer are trusting logos as much as they would a person. Humans forever have connected with humans, right?
Yeah.
We're going to trust someone that is a human rather than, it's funny. Would you trust an AI robot? Probably not. If they accurately reflected a human being, maybe, and they didn't have any. You're thinking about this here. Come on.
Yeah, well, it's a really good question, but I think it comes down to the point you mentioned just now, is about authenticity.
Yeah.
Because that is very important for an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
I think you could have many a brand, but if people don't trust you based on your authenticity.
Yeah. And what is authenticity? It's difficult to find, and I will completely admit that I've struggled to be. People will look at my social media and go, Ben, you are, the stuff you post is pretty authentic. But even I don't feel really true to myself with some of my content that I create around giving value. So I aim to give as much value as possible to people for free. If you pay close enough attention, I give away everything I know in personal branding through my social media content. Right. I give value, I demonstrate my expertise, and I show my personality. And I always feel like that personality bit is always missing a wee bit because I don't feel like I'm being truly myself. And that is why I post my bloopers, which I know is silly, and people see it and they're like, that's not, what's that got to do with business? But I'm doing it because it's truly me. I'm prattling around, I'm laughing, I swear a lot, sorry. I say sorry, mum and dad, they're as bad as me. They're our whole household is dreadful. But that's the reason I post bloopers, because I feel like it's truly me and it's helping me get towards that version of me that will be authentic in my other content, which is my giving value content, teaching people stuff. So yeah, I suppose you're building a personal brand and you're visible as an entrepreneur, or you're invisible, and that is going to cost you a hell of a lot of money if you are not visible online.
We've talked about kind of the why. Why is it important to have a good personal brand? Now let's move on to the how. So if you were starting from scratch today, Ben, looking to launch your first business, how would you build a personal brand that's recognizable and memorable?
I would start off by getting super clear on what you love doing. And if you are, I'll give you sort of like 2 examples here. So say your first example is you're a uni student. You've come out of uni. This is great for your listeners. You've come out of uni. You have a set of skills that you've learnt in uni, but you don't yet have maybe the experience or what you believe stories to tell. And part of a personal brand is telling stories, is building trust, it's giving value, it's showing your expertise. So what you can do is, first of all, get clear on what you love doing, but also think about what you could talk about passionately for an hour, like on a podcast. I could ramble on about personal branding. You have to shut me up. So that is how I've realized that personal branding is my passion. That's why I love doing it. That's why I love helping people. But also on that point, figure out who you love helping as well. What type of people are you best placed to help? And if you've been running a business for a little while, then you can have a look at who you've typically helped and who you've enjoyed working with, right? That's the benefit of having a business for a little while. And then you can find your niche. So you can look at how, what the type of people I've been working with, what the type of people I've enjoyed working with, who am I best placed to help? There's a brilliant lady. Her name's Lottie Kent. She's not famous or anything. She's on LinkedIn and Instagram. And she is a financial advisor, right? She helps, but she has got this most amazing niche. And this works into how, because she has discovered her why, right? So it's important to understand your why as an individual, i.e. why you do what you do, because then that works into your mission and it works that into your niche as well. So who you actually want to, who you're best placed to help.
Yeah.
So Lottie is a financial advisor specifically for women pre, during, and post divorce.
Oh.
Right. And she does this because this is her why. Okay, this is really important when you are building a personal brand. You need to understand this. Her why is because she was the daughter of divorced parents, so she has seen firsthand the consequences of financial distress, for example.
Right.
Her mission now, this is not word for word quoted, but her mission now is to be that person for women to help them secure their financial security after a divorce. That is the gold standard of a why and a mission, and therefore for a personal brand. And then she's worked it into her niche as well. So she's created this niche of women who are pre, during, and post divorce. And you might think, and I get this from my clients, oh, well, what about other people? What about women who need financial advice that are not getting divorced? Okay, fair enough. Go to another financial advisor. Lottie is speaking to a specific audience, and she knows she's speaking to them. So she's attracting those people. Right. And I did a little bit of research, right? Now, this is not totally accurate, right? But just to give you an idea, the divorce rates are pretty miserable in the UK. I think it's like 50% or something.
Oh, wow.
Something like that. So we don't know how many people are considering divorce. So she helps people pre-divorce, right? So we don't know that. We don't know that statistic. Anyway, out of like how many women are in the UK, how many women are of marriageable age? Well, that sounds terrible. And what the divorce rate is. And I looked at the census. Her target audience is roughly 2 to 3 million people.
Oh, wow.
Women in the UK, roughly. Is that big enough of a target audience for you? Right? 2 to 3 million. How many people is she going to be able to work with at any one point? 50, and she'd probably still be earning 6 figures, right? So having a niche, and this goes back to the how. It's really important to understand. Take a look at your past. Take a look at your experience.
Yeah.
What have you been good at in the past? What type of people are you best placed to help? And figure out your mission. Because one of the biggest mistakes I see, and I'm going to come back to this, I'll just mention it now, is people that are trying to start a business and therefore a personal brand, because anyone with a business needs a personal brand, I believe nowadays, is doing it without a mission. You need to have, and it doesn't need to be some kind of world-saving Bob Geldof, let's feed Africa mission, because Bob Geldof is capable of that. He's a famous guy and he's got lots of money and he's capable of feeding Africa. But little old Dick, Joe and Harry or Derek down the road is not going to be able to say, I want to cure world hunger, because that's not authentic. That's inauthentic. That's not believable. So when I'm talking about a mission, I'm talking about a problem that you want to solve. It could be for society. It could be that altruistic, but also it could just be, for me, for example, I want to be the person that I wish I had when I started my first business. The first 12 months were rough. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't have much guidance at all. I didn't know what I was doing in terms of building a personal brand. And now everyone's awakening to this idea of building a personal brand and how it can benefit you and the infinite benefits to it. Then they want help to build a personal brand. And I go, well, I've done it before. I can help you.
Yeah.
And I want to be that person that I wish I had starting my business for people that are either starting a business or looking to build a personal brand later. A couple more things on building a personal brand is giving value. And I ramble on about this all the time to my clients. So if you're starting out and you've got a business idea, you found your niche, you found your why, if you want to start building a personal brand, you need to build trust with people. You need to accrue goodwill, as James Smith says. I've said this before, but I believe in it so much, and it really resonates with me, that phrase, accrue goodwill. And to accrue goodwill, you need to give value to people. So post 3 times a week on LinkedIn, or post a video if you feel comfortable with that, on your giving some of your expertise. What have you learned in your life? And giving value is also telling stories as well, as long as it's got a moral to the story. Don't just tell a story for story's sake. Tell a story that you can actually learn from. Don't make it ridiculous. Like today I went to the shop and the woman said thank you, and it made me think about gratitude. Like, that's not a story. Right? It needs to be grounded in something believable, authentic. So yeah, don't just post any old shit, but give value to people, so that you need to build trust. Post 3 times a week. Be as real and as authentic as you possibly can be. And I know that might be difficult for some people. If I stick a camera in front of your face, it can be tricky sometimes to be authentic. The best way for me to feel authentic and to be authentic is right now on a podcast, because I'm looking at you as a human and I'm just rambling off what's in my head. Right. And it feels natural. Whereas if you stick a camera in front of my face and I have to do a piece of content for Instagram or TikTok, I'm a showman. Right. And you without realizing, I think humans can naturally sense that you're putting on an act. This is not me acting. Right, this is me having a genuine one-to-one conversation with you. Yeah. So if you can, get on a podcast, even if it's just Linda down the road who runs a baking podcast, do it, because it will help you practice your message. Yeah. It'll help you get clear on what you're doing, why you're doing it, who you want to help, and you can record it as well. So you can share it as content pieces, like I'm going to do. Right? Yeah. So be as real as possible. And if you're young, so a lot of young people go, well, I don't have any stories to tell. I'm not old enough. I don't have enough experience. Well, share your journey then. So from now on, and I've seen this from some brilliant, I can't give you any names, but there's some great people on social media, just young people like me. Well, not that young. But that are sharing their journey with starting their coffee shop business, for example. Get people to emotionally buy into you. show them the good, the bad, and the ugly. And our generation, I believe, well, I'm millennial, but the Gen Zs, I think, I would count myself as one of them to a degree, are fantastic at being raw and authentic nowadays. It's not very difficult, I find. I see for people to be authentic online. So I don't think that's going to be as tricky for the younger generation to be authentic online. People are starting to learn that skill coming out of the womb, right? And my last piece of advice is, I would say, network. Network. Your network is your net worth. I know it sounds like Hormozy, yeah, bro. Your network is your net worth, bro. But it's so true, and it's brought my personal brand and my network have brought me all the opportunities that I have had to this day. And it will serve your net. You can never lose your network. So I lost my last business running my franchise, and yes, they took away the fiscal entity, the financial asset, which was the business, but they couldn't fucking take away my network of people. And I leveraged that when I went into my next phase of life. I've always leveraged my network. In fact, while I'm back here, I'm going to go to London, Southampton, go to all the places I used to go and just network, because I like keeping in touch with all. I like it. You know, I like talking to people. So yeah, network. That's what I would say, kids. Sorry.
Well, thank you. Great. So I think we started with talking about having a mission.
Yeah.
Then providing value
Yeah.
for others.
Yeah.
Then we talked about being authentic, being real.
Yeah.
And then finally go out and network. So that's how you would do it.
And networking isn't necessarily like going out to an event that's been booked on a Wednesday evening. You can network in your day-to-day life. I do it. I network in Spain with people that don't even speak English, right?
How'd you do that?
Well, they speak a bit of English, right? Or I speak in a bit of Spanish, right? It's about a conversation you understand 50% of. But it's about getting people to know, like, and trust you. And then if you ever need to utilize their expertise in the future, guess what? You can always pick up the phone because you've been a good bloke or a good guy. That sounds terrible. You've been a good bloke or a good person or a... Yeah, right. And your network you can leverage when you're in times of need, but also you can leverage it when you want to take that next step in life, or you want to, I don't know, write a book, for goodness sake. Your network is your net worth, I would say.
What do people get wrong when they're trying to build a personal brand, and what advice would you give them?
I would say the biggest mistake that people make, and I've mentioned this, I've just mentioned it before, is not having a clear mission. So I get people approach me and they want to build a personal brand, and I'm like, okay, why? Just because. Okay, right. So you want to do it for the clout and the fame. That if you have the intention of building a personal brand for the clout and the fame, people are going to see right through it. And they will tell, they can tell, humans can tell. Humans are incredibly intelligent people, right? They don't realize it. They can instinctively tell if you're being inauthentic or if you're doing it for the wrong reasons. You need to have a clear mission that you're passionate about, and it will make your job and your business a lot easier. Where I found success with my health insurance business was believing in the product so much that all I had to do was tell people, this is the benefit, this is the price. And most of the time they were keen as a bean, because what I'd done is created so much excitement around the product because I was so bloody passionate about it, that I learned this phrase from someone in my recruitment days, but 50% of the sale is the transfer of enthusiasm.
Oh.
So all you're having to do for the other 50% is build credibility and trust.
Mm.
Here's how I'd view it as a formula, right? I'm going to be like a Hormozy here. 50% of the sale is a transfer of enthusiasm. So as long as you're enthusiastic about your product or your service, which I clearly bloody am about personal branding, it's like a no-brainer nowadays. The other 50% is having a personal brand, because you've already explained to people through your content, through your messaging, through what you're putting out into the world, the unique value of your product or service. You've told them your values, you've told them your beliefs. So literally, by the time you sit down with someone for a sales meeting, if you have a memorable, strong personal brand and you're enthusiastic about your product, I'd go as far as saying that deal is secured. I know it sounds bold. So yeah, having a clear mission is one of the big things that people get wrong. Your primary objective in building a personal brand doesn't necessarily have to be like altruistic, save the world. It just needs to be a clear mission that's believable and authentic.
Yeah.
Another thing I find that people get wrong with building personal brands is following trends. Now, I've changed my mind on this particular bit. There's nothing wrong with going viral, as long as the content that's going viral aligns with your personal brand. If you're going viral for a piece of content that's you prattling around or just following a trend that's got no sort of symmetry to your personal brand, then you're just going to be attracting a shitload of riffraff and people who don't align with your beliefs and your values and your personal brand and your business and what you have to offer. So again, there's nothing wrong with going viral as such, as long as that piece of content that's gone viral attracts people that align with your personal brand and your business. So if you're going to go viral, if you're trying to make viral content, make sure that it aligns with your beliefs and values. Don't start following trends where it's got absolutely nothing to do with what you stand for. It's just pointless. Yeah, you might get loads of likes. Yeah, you might get a bit of clout. Yeah, you might get some more followers, but they're fucking useless. They're absolutely useless to you. Why, so nothing wrong with virality, but don't start following trends is what I would say. Yeah.
Cool. Great. Thank you. Actually, a follow-up question on that one is...
Go for it.
How long do you reckon it will take to build a personal brand?
Oh, the $1 million question. I mean, personally, it took me at least 2 years to be recognized. I created my niche with my last business. I created the private healthcare guy, and it took a couple of years for people to recognize me. It depends how you measure a personal brand. Everyone has a personal brand, is what I've argued. So to what degree do you want that personal brand to get to? Do you want it to attract multi-million-dollar investment to your business, or do you literally just want to attract Doris from down the road to buy your product? Right? It's there's a massive scale of personal brand. So you can't really put your finger on building a person. How do you know when you built a personal brand? The indicators are you are recognized. People know exactly what you stand for. So if people are approaching you, okay, here's a sign that it's not working. If people are approaching you and they don't know what you do, or they misconstrue what you do, that means you've built a faulty personal brand.
Or an unclear one.
You've built a personal brand that's not clear and it lacks clarity. And that's one of the things that I give to my clients is clarity. Help them get clear on why they do what they do, their mission, who they want to attract, why they love doing it. And then they start attracting the people that they love working with, because it's all about the law of attraction, right?
Yeah.
So can you quantify a personal brand? No. Everyone has a personal brand. Yeah, that's what I'd say on that. Cool. That's probably not a clear enough answer really for you, is it? But sadly, there's not. If you're attracting clients that you love working with and they're bringing you money, guess what, mate? You've built a personal brand. Fantastic. and they're clients that you love working with. Another indicator that it's not working or you've built an unclear personal brand is you're attracting clients that you hate working with. If you start attracting, that's when you need to take a serious look at what you're putting out into the world. If you're attracting clients that you hate working with, they question every penny you charge, you need to take a long, hard look at yourself in the mirror. That sounds a bit over the top, but you just need to take a long, hard look at what you're putting out into the world. Same goes for dating, right? Like if you're going, and I compare personal branding to dating quite a lot, but if you're attracting people that are completely misaligned with you, go on a date with someone that is like, why, how have we ended up face to face with each other? Well, go back online, or maybe your friend. Okay, so let's forget Tinder and Hinge and all that, because that's quite classic nowadays. If you're putting out a bad image online and you're giving out a certain message that's attracting crap, then guess what? You're going to attract crap. But if you are, say if your mate has put you in touch with someone, like a blind date, and it's someone that just is like, why have you put me in front of this person? Well, guess what? You haven't clearly communicated with your friend what type of person you're looking for. These are my that friend is obviously not your friend because they don't understand your values, your beliefs, what you stand for, what you expect in a relationship. So if anything, it's not their fault, it's your fault because it's what you're putting out into the world, right? So that's a good metaphor, dating and personal branding. Again, it's the law of attraction. What you give out into the world is what you attract back.
Yeah.
So just be careful, and not be careful, but just be wary and conscious of what you're putting out into the world, because guess what? You're going to attract it back.
Wow.
Talked enough, haven't I?
Not enough. Well, so you have started business in the past. You are now running a business. So what are the challenges you faced when starting your business?
It's funny how you mentioned challenges, because yes, there are challenges. There are many, 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 many challenges in starting a business. It's never easy. And for me, there hasn't really been any other option. I lost my last business, and at that point I was really stung, and I thought, I can't be self-employed again. It's so insecure. And I was really hurt, and I never thought I'd be self-employed again. And so what I did is I went into employment and went, I'd rather shoot myself. So I quickly realized that there's no other option for me. So I had to kind of climb the mountain of being self-employed. If I wanted to be self-employed, then I'd have to climb that mountain. And the challenges are numerous, as any entrepreneur would know. Mental, financial, the list just goes physical. The list just goes on and on and on. It's not for the faint-hearted, starting a business. But if you're clear on what you do and why you do it, and I know I keep talking about this, then it's going to make your life a lot easier. There's no point getting in. God, I don't want to sound like one of these. I'm not like a 50-year-old CEO that's run multiple VC-backed companies, but I have had, I communicate with the younger generation sometimes. And, one of the things I find with them is that, they're incredibly driven. They want to start a business. And I think, well, okay, but why? Like, what's your end goal? Well, it's just cool, isn't it? Like, I want to be an entrepreneur. And I'm like, okay, fair enough. Fair enough. I get that. It is cool. It's a bit of street cred. But you really need to have a long, hard think about why you're doing it. And you do need to have an authentic problem to solve. Sorry, mate. You can't just go out trying to start any old company for the sake of making money. It's just not going to work unless you're really, 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 really switched on. So challenges are endless. I think one of the things for me, and one of the things I'd say to younger people, and the challenge that we have, is education around tax. And I got myself into a right old, shitstorm with my last business, where I was basically a year behind on tax because people told me like, oh, you need to put away money for tax. But I was like, yeah, I'll be all right. Yeah, just spend loads of money, buy nice cars and watches and all that. And then at the point I lost my business, I had tens of thousands of pounds in tax that I owed.
Oh.
And I did write off half of it on, this is completely legal, by the way. I liquidated the company and I wrote off I wrote off the whole corporate tax. But then I was left with still a hefty sum of personal liability. That wouldn't have happened if I'd had tax, if I was a bit more switched on about tax. And I'm not going to blame anyone else. It was my own fault. I'm not going to point the finger at anyone here. But I wish I had more education around tax. So if there's anything I'd say to any young entrepreneur, please keep your finger on the pulse with your tax. HMRC are going to freaking love me. This episode is sponsored by HMRC. No, I mean, there's no point running away from tax. There are two certainties in life: death and tax. And it's been, it's been a really tough one. It has bit me in the arse big time. So that's another thing. Some of the other challenges I would say are, similar to like tax, of course, is financial. I mean, literally, quite often you don't have a pot to piss in. Sadly, you've literally got to make ends meet, and it's what you do for the price of freedom. I think. It's, as I say, there's not really any other option for me. I would rather have that than be. It's a terrible conundrum for me. I'd rather have that than be employed. Sadly, I don't think I'll really ever be employed ever again. I'm unemployable. So financial, just be wary that is going to be a big thing. Build like marketing budgets, for example, right? So, and this is where I'm going to like slide in personal branding. I know we're not supposed to be talking about personal branding in this bit, but if you look at like how much money an entrepreneur would have had to spend 20 years ago to get out into the world on marketing, right? Even if they picked up the yellow pages and just cold called people, that's still going to cost you because you have to pay for each phone call. Yeah. But if nowadays you're an entrepreneur, you're a wannabe entrepreneur, and you want to reach out into the world and you want to attract clients and you want to attract opportunities, guess what? You can post online for free. Right? Easy. So I think if anyone's saying like, oh, it's tough to start a business nowadays, think about the old geezers 20 years ago, right? The poor buggers 20 years ago. It's a lot easier now. You've got AI, for goodness sake, writes emails for you. Now, really be careful with that. Okay, right. AI. Is this a challenge? No, it's definitely a benefit, but be really careful, especially at this juncture where AI is where it's at. You can sound incredibly rebel. I'm seeing it so often on LinkedIn, people copy and pasting posts from ChatGPT. And so guess what? Whenever I see a LinkedIn post with a spelling mistake now, I'm like, oh my God, this person's written it themselves. Wow, bravo. Right? It's like, bloody hell. They've actually written it themselves. So, it's weird how your expectations or people's expectations are moving away from pristine, ultra perfect grammar to like no capital letters, no full stops. And teachers in schools are probably going mad because they're like, we've been teaching kids this for years and now you're going back on it. And I'm like, well, it's actually more authentic because ChatGPT is making everything look shiny roses perfect. Every grammar is spot on. But guess what? No one writes like that. No, even the professor of literature at the University of Exeter or University of Oxford doesn't write like that. No one is perfect. And so be really careful with ChatGPT. Use it for inspiration. Give it help by all means, and help get ideas from it. But do not copy. If you want to build a genuine personal brand, do not copy from ChatGPT. People are just going to see right through it. And I can spot a ChatGPT post a mile away now. And guess what? My best performing posts, and I have written posts by ChatGPT before. ChatGTP is what your family members always say. You wrote this ChatGTP stuff. Oh God, I lost my train of thought there. I'm messing around.
The post you wrote.
Yeah, so the best performing posts I have are written by me, and the best performing videos I have are written by me. So I think that says a lot.
Yeah.
Because people can sense it. There's just a subconscious thing within humans that people can sense it. And yeah, I think people can smell authenticity a mile off. Humans' authenticity receptors are like turbo. They're better than dogs, better than dog sense of smell for whatever they might be smelling. Damn, that was profound. Jeez.
Woo! Right.